Karen ripped it right off me. Just like that. No hesitation. No pause. Just her clawing fingers yanking my insulin patch pump from my arm while screaming, "He's got a bomb." And in that instant, with everyone's heads whipping toward me, all I heard was the rip of adhesive, the shocked gasps around, and my own heart pounding so hard I thought it would tear out of my chest. You know that moment when the world just slows, like your brain can't process the absurdity of what just happened? That was me, standing in the middle of the grocery store parking lot, clutching my arm where my lifeline had been ripped off. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I shouted, but my voice cracked because I already felt lightheaded, panic mixing with the sudden drop in my blood sugar. Karen, this middle-aged woman with her oversized sunglasses, her fake designer purse and that ever-present sneer, just stood there like she had saved the world. She actually held my insulin pump high above her head, like some kind of trophy, screaming, "Call 911. He's dangerous. He's got a device." People froze. Some reached for their phones. And me, I just staggered forward, breath shallow, the world tilting. Damn it. Not now. Not here. My pump wasn't some optional gadget. It was the thing keeping me alive. Without it, every second mattered. "Lady, that's medical equipment." I tried to explain, gasping, but she cut me off with her shrill, piercing voice. "Don't believe him. That's exactly what they'd say. Look at it. Wires. Blinking lights." She shrieked. The little LED that usually reassured me was now her smoking gun. And then came the sirens. Oh God, the sirens. The distant wail of squad cars approaching. Closer. Louder. Cutting through the heavy silence of stunned shoppers. I wanted to scream at them to hurry and at the same time to turn back, because I knew how this looked. Opale. Sweating guy clutching his arm. A woman waving a ripped-off device and yelling "bomb." The first cruiser screeched in. Doors flying open. Officers shouting commands. "Hands up. Step back." The sheer authority in their voices rattled through my bones. I raised my shaking hands, my body trembling from both low blood sugar and raw fear. "Officer, please, it's not." I stammered, but my throat was tight, my vision tunneling. Karen, though, she played it up. She ran toward them, holding my pump out like contraband. "There." I stopped him. He tried to bring this into the store. I ripped it right off him before he could. "You ripped it off him." One officer interrupted, his voice sharp. "Yes." She beamed, like she expected applause. "I'm the reason you all got here in time." That's when I saw it, the flicker of suspicion in the officer's eyes. He looked at her, then at me, then back at the pump in her hand. He motioned another officer over, who carefully took the device, inspecting it. "This looks like a medical insulin pump." His words hung heavy in the air. Karen blinked, thrown off for half a second, then quickly doubled down. No, that's what he wants you to think. It's a disguise." The officer narrowed his eyes. "Ma'am, this attaches to the skin. It's got glucose monitoring. This isn't an explosive. Sir, is this yours?" "Yes." I almost shouted, though it came out weak, desperate. She ripped it off me. I need it back. Please." My voice cracked, my knees wobbling. Karen scoffed, crossing her arms. But her confidence was starting to waver. "You're making a mistake. I've seen things like this in the news." "Ma'am." The officer's voice hardened. "You just assaulted a man and stole his medical device. That is a serious offense." And oh, you should have seen Karen's face then. That perfect little mask of superiority crumbled in real time. Her jaw dropped, her lips twitched, and she started backpedaling. No, I didn't mean." He looked suspicious. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," the officer said flatly. "They wouldn't." By then, The crowd had found its voice again. Someone muttered, "She could have killed him." Another whispered, "What's wrong with her?" And someone else straight up said, "Karen strikes again." I felt dizzy, sweat pouring down my neck, and I whispered, "I need sugar. I need." My body was trembling violently now. The officer nearest me caught on immediately and shouted, "We need EMS here now." Karen tried one last move. Classic deflection. This is harassment. He's probably faking it to get sympathy. But that was the final straw. The officer nearest her grabbed her wrists, twisting them behind her back with practiced precision. The click of handcuffs snapped through the air like karma itself. "What? No. You can't do this to me. I was protecting everyone." She screamed, thrashing, her sunglasses flying off and skittering across the pavement. "You assaulted a man and interfered with his medical treatment." The officer said coldly, "You're under arrest." The crowd clapped. I'm not kidding. They actually clapped. It wasn't loud, but it was real. A ripple of satisfaction at seeing her dragged down a peg. Paramedics rushed in, and while one of them reattached my backup pump, another officer crouched beside me. "You're safe now, sir. We've got her." But even in cuffs, Karen wouldn't shut up. "This is discrimination. You're all blind. He's dangerous." "Ma'am." The officer cut in, his patience razor thin. "The only dangerous thing here is your ignorance." And damn, if that didn't feel like the universe itself dropping the mic. They hauled her to the cruiser, still screaming, but the sound was muffled by the slam of the door. I sat on the curb, shaking, sipping the glucose drink the EMT handed me, the weight of what had just happened sinking in. I should have felt relief. Instead, all I felt was exhaustion and this gnawing thought, what if she had been just a little rougher? Ripped skin, yanked the cannula wrong. What if I hadn't gotten help in time? But then the twist. The twist. A man in the crowd stepped forward. Tall, older, wearing a neat button-up. His voice was steady, cutting through the murmur. "That woman did something similar last month. Accused a teenager of stealing her purse. Turns out she planted it herself. Filed false reports. This isn't new." The officer turned his head slowly, his jaw tightening. "We'll be adding that to her charges." My stomach flipped, not from low sugar this time, but from the realization that Karen wasn't just ignorant. She was dangerous, manipulative, the kind of person who thought the world was her stage and everyone else was a threat or a prop. And now, she was finally facing consequences. As they drove her away, I exhaled for what felt like the first real breath all day. The crowd slowly dispersed, shaking their heads, muttering. One woman put a hand on my shoulder, her eyes kind. "You did nothing wrong. Don't let her make you feel like you did." I nodded, swallowing hard. My voice came out hoarse but firm. "She won't. Not anymore." The parking lot quieted. The flashing lights faded and I sat there with the paramedics until my blood sugar steadied. The world felt fragile, tilted, but also strangely right. Like karma had finally caught up with the person who thought she was untouchable. And Karen, she wasn't untouchable anymore. Because the truth was out. The evidence was clear and the law had the last word. And me, I learned something that day. Sometimes, you don't have to fight back with fists or fury. Sometimes, the sweetest revenge is just letting karma show up in uniform and slap the cuffs on the one who swore they were just protecting everyone. So yeah, Karen ripped off my insulin patch pump, thought it was a bomb and ended up in the back of a squad car, screaming at a world that had finally stopped listening. And honestly, that sound, the sound of her voice fading as the cruiser pulled away, was the sweetest damn victory I'd ever heard. Thank you for listening to this wild ride, and if you want more stories like this full of drama, karma, and shocking twists, make sure to subscribe to the channel right now. The first thing you need to know is this: Karen didn't just cut in line. She bulldozed her way past a crowd of exhausted parents and kids, shoved herself right up to the velvet ropes and then sneered, at a young boy holding his mother's hand. "Oh please. Kids don't need special treatment. Step aside, brat." The words stung the air like a slap. I swear the entire crowd gasped at once. It was one of those moments when the sound of shock rolls through like a wave. You could feel the energy shift, the tension sharpen. Even the boy froze, blinking up at her with wide, glassy eyes. His mother squeezed his hand tighter, clearly trying to hold her ground. But Karen, she didn't stop. She actually laughed. Who laughs at a child like that? Who thinks humiliation is funny? The line was long, hours long, stretching through the atrium of the convention center. People were hot, tired, restless. Every single person there had been waiting for the same thing. A once-in-a-lifetime meet and greet with a world-famous performer. And this woman just decided rules weren't for her. "Excuse me, ma'am," the mother said softly, her voice tight, a polite tremor hiding anger. "We've been waiting here for 2 hours. Could you please step back?" Karen whipped around, hand on her hip, her sunglasses perched like armor. "Oh, I'm not the one with a sticky-fingered brat clinging to me. Do you want this line to take longer? Because I'll make it longer." The crowd bristled. Murmurs rose like low thunder. Someone coughed sharply. Another muttered, "Unbelievable." But no one stepped in. Not yet. Everyone was holding their breath. Then came the moment. The boy, maybe 8 years old, looked up at Karen with this innocent, bewildered face. His voice barely more than a whisper. "I just wanted to see him too." Karen barked a laugh so sharp it cut the air. "Then cry about it somewhere else. Life isn't fair, kid." That did it. You could hear the gasp this time. Loud and angry. Mothers shook their heads. Fathers squared their shoulders, and even teens holding merch bags shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't just rudeness anymore. It was cruelty. And then, like it was choreographed by fate itself, 2 security guards turned the corner. Big, uniformed, no-nonsense men with radios clipped to their shoulders. The crowd parted instinctively, murmuring, pointing. Karen, oblivious, tossed her hair. Finally, security. Someone who understands VIPs like me. I don't need to wait with peasants. She actually waved them over. Waved. I almost laughed right then. But I didn't want to miss what happened next. The guards exchanged one look, then approached. "De taller 1. Voice calm but edged with authority. Asked, "Ma'am, is there a problem here?" Karen puffed up like a balloon. "Yes. This ridiculous line is full of entitled parents and their whiny children. I'm the only one here with any class and I should be escorted inside immediately. I don't pay good money to stand around like cattle." The crowd started buzzing. Someone hissed, "What nerve?" Another muttered, "She's gonna regret that." You could feel it. Everyone silently rooting for karma to strike. The mother of the boy stayed quiet, but her hand trembled where it clutched his shoulder. The boy himself just stared up at the guards with this wide-eyed mix of hope and fear. He didn't understand power games. Not yet. He just wanted fairness. And oh, he got it. The guard's eyes flicked to the boy. He crouched slightly, lowering his voice so it was steady and kind. "Hey, buddy, what's your name?" The boy swallowed, then whispered, "Eli." "Eli? Well, Eli, I think we've got something special for you today." Karen blinked, confusion cracking her smug mask. What are you doing talking to him? I'm the one who..." The guard ignored her, speaking into his radio. "Dispatch. Confirm we can grant VIP clearance for guest Eli and guardian." The other guard nodded, stepping aside to open the velvet rope. The crowd actually gasped in unison, then erupted into clapping. Clapping. Karen's jaw dropped. What? What? You can't just. He's just some random kid. I'm the one who deserves this. The guard stood tall now, looking her dead in the eye. His voice was steel. Ma'am, you just mocked a child. We don't tolerate harassment. You're done here. Her face twisted, red blotches blooming across her cheeks. You can't do this to me. Do you know who I am? The mother exhaled shakily, pulling Eli through the open rope as the guards ushered them toward the VIP entrance. The boy's face lit up like the 4th of July, eyes shining, lips trembling in a smile too big for his face. The crowd cheered louder, a wave of joy sweeping through. It was vindication, pure and sweet. Karen, meanwhile, shrieked. She clawed at the air like she could grab her status back. This is discrimination. This is abuse. I will sue all of you. The shorter guard gestured firmly. Ma'am, you need to leave the premises now. And then, the bitter twist. The performer himself appeared at the far end of the corridor. The star everyone had come to see, stepping out with an entourage, ready to greet the VIP guests. Eli froze in awe, his little hands shaking. The performer spotted him immediately. Maybe it was the security. Maybe it was fate. But his smile spread wide. He knelt down, arms open, and Eli just ran. The hug was pure magic. The kind you never forget. Cameras flashed. Parents cried. People cheered. And Karen screamed. She lunged forward, only to be grabbed, literally lifted, by the guards. She kicked and flailed, her sunglasses flying across the marble floor, her voice cracking into hysterics. That should be me. I deserve it. Not him. The sound of her shriek collided with the sound of applause. It was almost musical, chaos and triumph blending together. Her heels scraped the ground as she was dragged toward the exit, her designer bag banging against her hip. People laughed openly now, phones recording every second. Her last desperate words echoed through the atrium. I'll make sure you all regret this. But no one believed her anymore. She wasn't powerful. She was pitiful. And as the glass doors slammed behind her, the crowd cheered again. Louder, freer, victorious. The boy, Eli, got to stay. He got photos, autographs, even a tour backstage. Every parent in that line smiled wider than they had all day, pride swelling in their chests. A child had been mocked, but justice had flipped the script. Life isn't fair. Oh, Karen. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's beautifully fair. And the bitter ending. Hours later, when videos hit social media, Karen's face, twisted with rage, her voice shrieking at a child, went viral. By the next morning, she wasn't an unknown VIP. She was a meme, a cautionary tale. The woman who mocked a boy and got thrown out. Her reputation, shredded. Her pride, gone. And justice, served hot, with the whole world watching. And that's the story. Thank you for listening, and if you loved this dramatic takedown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more Wild Homeowners Association and Karen stories. The first time I heard her laugh, it sent a chill straight down my spine. Not the warm kind of laugh that makes you want to join in, but that sharp, screeching kind that sounds like someone dragging nails across a chalkboard. And do you know what triggered it? The sight of an old man, our neighbor, a decorated veteran, walking to his mailbox with his prosthetic eye catching the sunlight. Can you imagine? Who does that? It was like the entire cul-de-sac froze in time. I remember holding my breath, my grocery bag heavy in my arms, while she spat out. Oh look, it's Pirate Pete again. Hope that I doesn't pop out when the wind blows. Her voice carried, shrill and mocking, bouncing off garage doors and stucco walls. My stomach twisted. I swear, you could feel the air thicken, like everyone around us was thinking the same thing. Did she really just say that out loud? The veteran, Mr. Dalton, stiffened. He wasn't just a neighbor. He was a man who had given half his life to serving this country. He'd lost that eye overseas. In a sandstorm of violence most of us couldn't even picture, and here she was, treating him like the punchline of some cruel joke. And the worst part, she grinned. She actually grinned, like mocking him was her idea of fun. My heart pounded in my chest, my hands shaking with rage. He didn't say a word back. Not one. He just looked at her, calm, steady, and then walked back inside. That silence. It was louder than any scream could have been. But you could tell. Something inside him cracked. Karen, of course, wasn't done. She strutted around like she'd just won some invisible argument, flipping her highlighted hair, her little homeowners association badge hanging around her neck like she was queen of the world. She loved reminding us she was chairwoman of the homeowners association, as if that made her a monarch. I couldn't keep my mouth shut. That's disgusting. I snapped, my voice trembling but loud enough to make her stop mid-step. You're mocking a man who lost his eye serving this country. What is wrong with you? Her head whipped around, eyes narrowing. Oh, please, she scoffed. If he can't handle a little joke, maybe he should stay inside. Don't be so dramatic. Dramatic? I nearly dropped my bag right there. My heart was hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. A couple of other neighbors peeked out from their porches, whispers passing between them. But no one else spoke up. Not yet. They were afraid of her letters, her fines, her threats to report every little thing to the board. That night, though, things shifted. Mr. Dalton's porch light stayed off. No quiet hum of his old radio drifting through the neighborhood like usual. Nothing. It felt like the soul of our street had been snuffed out. And every time I looked out my window, I saw Karen's smug little smile in my head, like she'd actually taken pride in shutting him down. But oh, karma doesn't sleep. The next morning, the sound of a police cruiser rolling down the street snapped everyone to attention. Sirens off, but lights flashing. 2 officers stepped out, their boots hitting the pavement in that heavy, deliberate way that makes your skin prickle. And who were they heading toward? Karen's house. She came out in her robe, barking at them like she was the one in charge. You can't just come onto homeowners association property without clearance. I'm chairwoman here. Her voice cracked when one of the officers calmly read her rights. Her face went pale. Her chin trembled, but she tried to mask it with that fake confidence. Wait, what? Handcuffs? She screeched, thrashing as they clicked around her wrists. The sound of metal snapping shut echoed across the block. Clink, clink. Music to our ears. Gasps rippled down the row of houses. Kids pressed their noses to windows. Dogs barked. I swear you could even hear the wind pause to listen. Mr. Dalton stepped out then. Slow, steady, dressed sharp in his pressed shirt with his medals pinned to the breast. His prosthetic eye caught the morning sun again. But this time no one laughed. Not a single soul dared to. He stood taller than I'd ever seen him, and when he spoke, his voice was like steel. She mocked a disabled veteran in violation of state harassment laws. She trespassed on my property last week and threatened me. I filed the report. I'm not staying silent anymore. Oh, my God. The collective gasp was almost cinematic. You could feel the tide turn instantly. All those neighbors who used to cower when she passed by suddenly found their courage. Whispers turned to nods. Nods turned to mutters. Mutters turned to outright cheers as the cops walked her down the driveway. But Karen, of course, didn't go down without a scene. This is an outrage. I'm the homeowners association chairwoman. You can't do this to me. Do you know who I am? The officer deadpanned. Ma'am, right now, you're under arrest. I almost laughed out loud. Almost. But instead I just stood there, stunned. my breath catching in my throat. Because wasn't this exactly what we'd been waiting for? The fall of the tyrant. The collapse of the so-called queen bee who fed off fear and intimidation. And here's the twist. The part that made every jaw drop. When the cops searched her house later, they found more than just homeowners association paperwork. They uncovered stacks of unfiled complaints, fines she'd fabricated, even cash she'd pocketed from homeowners association funds. Fraud, theft, extortion. It was like peeling back the layers of a rotten onion. The deeper they dug, the worse it smelled. Neighbors started coming forward, one after another. Stories poured out. Threats, blackmail, false citations. She wasn't just cruel. She was criminal. And the image of her laughing at Mr. Dalton's eye became the spark that lit the fuse. I still remember the way Dalton nodded at the officers as they led her away. Not smug, not gloating, just relieved. Like he finally had his dignity back and justice had spoken louder than any insult ever could. But me, I felt fire in my chest. Because watching her dragged off in cuffs wasn't just justice. It was a warning. A warning that words have weight. That cruelty has consequences. That mocking someone for their scars, their pain, their sacrifice, it will always come back to bite you. Harder than you could ever imagine. And you know what? That night, as the crickets chirped and porch lights flickered back on, the neighborhood felt alive again. Like we'd been holding our breath for months and finally exhaled. Karen's house sat dark. Her robe abandoned on the porch where she'd dropped it in the chaos. A fitting symbol. Really. A queen dethroned. Sometimes, I still hear that laugh in my head. Sharp and cutting. But then I remember the sound that followed. The clink of those handcuffs, and it drowns her out every time. Because in the end, the bully mocked a veteran's eye. But it was her own vision that failed. She couldn't see that her reign of cruelty was over before it even began. And that's how Karen, the loudest voice on the block, ended up silenced in the back of a squad car, staring out through the bars of her own downfall. And that, my friends, is the story of how one homeowners association Karen mocked the wrong person and met the bitter taste of karma. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more stories like this. She printed out official-looking warnings and stuffed them into his mailbox, thinking nobody would notice. My 19-year-old nephew, barely out of community college, stood in my kitchen with a citation in his shaking hand accused of multiple HOA violations on a property we both knew damn well wasn't even under an HOA. That's when I knew someone was trying to ruin him before he even had a chance to start his life. Let me back up a second. My name's Jenna, and I've been living in the same red-roofed bungalow on Maple Ridge Lane for the last 12 years. Quiet street, mostly retirees, a few young families, and your occasional overzealous gardener who thinks the color of your mulch determines your worth as a human being. You know the type. Now, when my sister passed last spring lung cancer, fast and cruel, my nephew Tyler came to live with me. He was sweet, soft-spoken, and probably too polite for his own good. I had just finished fixing up the guest house in my backyard, and it made sense to offer him a fresh start. He moved in with one duffel bag and this wide-eyed hope that maybe things would finally settle down. And for a while they did, until she got involved. Karen Fairbanks, HOA president in her own cul-de-sac 2 blocks over. Mind you, but always poking around ours like she ran this place too. Tall, stiff posture, lipstick always a shade too red, and a clipboard that may as well have been welded to her arm. She walked like her heels were allergic to dirt and talked like every conversation was a courtroom deposition. The first warning came a week after Tyler installed a hummingbird feeder. Unauthorized wildlife attractant in view of public road. It said printed in bold, with some knockoff HOA letterhead that made my stomach twist. No signature, no return address, just folded neatly in our mailbox like it belonged there. I laughed it off, thought it was a prank at first. Then came the second one for improper lawn edging. Then a third unregistered vehicle on premises targeting Tyler's little beat-up Toyota, which he did have registered, by the way. By the 5th notice, he stopped eating dinner at the table. I caught him one night in the guest house, lights off, just sitting there with the stack of fake citations in his lap, rubbing his temples like he was the one doing something wrong. That's when I lost it. You didn't do anything wrong, Tyler, I told him, taking the papers from his hands. This isn't even a real HOA street. These are fake. He looked up at me, voice barely above a whisper. Then why does it feel so real? God, that cut deep. So I started digging, pulled up the county plat map, ran the parcel number, confirmed once again that our street was outside any HOA jurisdiction. Then I started comparing the fonts, the seal on the page, the phrasing. I printed a real HOA warning from my coworker's neighborhood, and that's when it hit me. These weren't just random notices. They were copies, digital clones. Someone had used Tyler's full name and even made up a membership number 243C, which I later confirmed belonged to Karen's street registry, meaning whoever was sending these had access to restricted HOA records. And only one person had both the motive and access. Karen. See, here's the thing. A few weeks after Tyler moved in, I caught her talking to my neighbor Joe, and on the curb, eyes locked on my backyard like she was measuring it with her mind. I remember her exact words. He's too young to be staying there alone. Zoning's gotten too loose. Like it was her backyard. And now she was using HOA-style warnings doctored and targeted to scare him into leaving. Why? Because she didn't like the look of a 19-year-old black kid living next door in a neighborhood she thought was established. I didn't just see red, I saw fire. So I set a trap. I mounted a cheap motion camera near the mailbox. Tyler didn't know I didn't want to stress him more. I also slipped a tiny GPS tile under the flap of the next envelope that came, just in case. 3 days later, boom. I had her. Footage showed Karen, gloved hand, sliding an envelope right into the box at 5:43 a.m., wearing her little windbreaker and a visor like she was headed to a tennis match. And that GPS tile? Pinged right back to her house, twice. I printed everything. Timestamps, screenshots. Brought it to Officer Daniels down at the precinct, an old friend from high school who'd gone the cop route instead of college. He took one look and whistled through his teeth. She's impersonating an HOA board over a jurisdiction she doesn't control, accessing private records, and sending forged citations across mailboxes, he said. That's federal, Jenna. Wait, federal? Oh yeah. He nodded, tapping the desk. Mail tampering and ID fraud. Using someone's full legal name to fake governance? That's more than petty harassment. That's a felony waiting to bloom. He sent it straight to the DA's office. But the twist? That wasn't even the end of it. Turns out Karen had done this before to 2 families over on Pinecrest Lane. Both moved out after a year of non-compliance fines and trash bin violations that never made sense. The HOA there was real, but Karen had been issuing warnings under a different alias, signing documents as S. Carruthers, a name tied to a now-defunct HOA secretary from 5 years ago. She'd been impersonating dead board members, using archive templates, sending mail under fake identities. Jesus. That's when the county launched a formal investigation. They froze her HOA access pending review and confiscated her laptop for digital forensics. Tyler, he didn't say much at first. Just watched the detectives load her equipment into a black SUV, his hand gripping the edge of our front porch railing. Then he whispered, "She really tried to destroy me," and I hugged him hard, because he was right. But here's the most chilling part. When they opened her files, they found a spreadsheet titled Neighborhood Alignment. Tyler's name was on it. So were 10 others. All new. All renters or young homeowners. And next to each name, a red highlighted column, flagged non-conforming. Non-conforming. Tell me that's not the creepiest damn word you've ever seen in Excel. The hearing was quiet, too quiet. Karen sat at the far table, lips pressed into that thin, sour line she always wore like war paint. But today she wasn't in control. Today the judge was, and he didn't look too thrilled about seeing HOA warning citations typed on county-exempt property with no legal standing. When the DA's office laid out the evidence, the mail footage, the GPS pings, the forged digital signatures, the spreadsheet with the flagged column, Karen finally broke. Not with an apology, but with a sneer. I was protecting neighborhood standards, she muttered. Protecting from what? From kids like Tyler? From renters who plant sunflowers and hang hammocks and have the nerve to not be afraid of her? The judge didn't buy it either. She was formally charged with mail fraud, impersonation of a legal entity, and identity theft. The HOA itself issued a statement distancing from her actions. Tyler was offered a written apology and a sealed restraining order. But the part that hit Karen hardest? We sued. Yeah, you heard that right. Tyler filed a civil lawsuit with my full backing for defamation, emotional distress, and harassment. And he won. The settlement wasn't some life-changing millions, but it was enough for him to pay for university, move into a proper apartment, and finally start dreaming again. You should have seen his face the day that check came in. He didn't want revenge. He just wanted peace. As for Karen, she's under ongoing investigation for tampering with digital HOA files. The county suspects she may have accessed dozens of private names, even altered addresses. She's facing another lawsuit from the Pinecrest families. That smug visor? Gone. That clipboard? Replaced with subpoenas. I still get chills when I think about how close she came to ruining a young man's entire future over bird feeders and imaginary lawn rules. And yet, for every Karen like her, there are people like us watching, recording, fighting back with truth and tape and the law on our side. So yeah, maybe the biggest mistake she made wasn't the fake warnings, or the spreadsheet, or the creepy dawn patrols. Maybe it was underestimating the one person Tyler had on his side who'd already buried 3 HOA boards and lived to tell the tale. Me. Now tell me, what would you have done? Have you ever caught someone forging authority to control others? Would you fight back? Or walk away? Drop your thoughts below, I want to hear all of them. And if you've ever thought lawsuits were boring, well, not in this neighborhood. They aren't. Thanks for sticking with this story, and hey, if you enjoy poetic justice and real-world showdowns like this one, make sure to hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. The next lawsuit? Oh, it's coming. And it's delicious.